5pmnation.com.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5,
Hey, everybody, welcome. It's that time again. Matt Connarton Unleashed in the afternoon on this hot, sticky afternoon. It is, what is it, Monday, May 20th, 2019. Feels like we went from winter to summer. But we are live here on WMNH 95.3 FM, emanating from a very hot, humid downtown Manchester, New Hampshire. Of course, also on Comcast 97 in Manchester, streaming at WMNHradio.org, and on Facebook via Facebook Live on the Matt Connarton Unleashed Facebook page. Yeah, that's why I opened with Weatherman Says by Jack Wagner. Actually, Peter White and I were having a conversation about that via text right before the show, because it's like really hot in here. It's kind of become an unofficial tradition on this show. You know, the first hot day of the season, I like a little Jack Wagner, the great Frisco Jones from the character that he played on General Hospital. Perhaps this is him calling, thanking me for playing his song, because he really only has one hit, and it wasn't that one. Hi, welcome to Matt Connarton Unleashed. Who's this?
Oh, hello.
Well, hello, Easy G.
I almost came down to the studio today, but my feet were just throbbing, so I said, well, plan B, I can give him a phone call. Hey, I got some breaking news to share on your little show.
Breaking news.
Yeah, I just found out on the Facebook post from my good pal Mike Martineau, WWE SmackDown coming back to town July 9th at the Snow Arena, because they need one show for the July, and this is their one gig.
July 9th.
Jesus, buddy.
Yes, I wish they could get Monday Night Raw to come to town, but we need more wrestling fans to show up. So, but we usually get about 2,000 or 3,000 fans, and boy, I tell you, I've worked at least 5 of these events over the last 3 years almost, and I tell you, wrestling fans, they know how to eat.
Yeah.
They eat a lot of food.
Yes.
Now, getting back to wrestling, there, I don't know if you happen to hear what happened to the Money in the Bank. I wasn't very happy. I was happy with Bayley cashing in and being she won all the titles that she could win now on the being a woman. That was great. But then I hated Brock Lesnar coming back and winning Money in the Bank. I mean,
Brock
I can't stand
Lesnar.
that guy.
Well, you know, Easy G, he did say he is apparently retired from UFC, so now he's free to, just work for WWE.
I know a friend of mine says that guy brings in all the money.
Why do
I can't stand the guy because he's so very part time. Say he wins the belt again, which he probably will. He never wrestles that often anymore. And of course, they give him a ton of money.
Yes, he's a bad guy though. You're supposed to hate him.
The big wrestling fans thinks that he brings the fans in. Well, he doesn't impress me.
Right.
If he was a good wrestler, he'd wrestle all the time like the other guys do.
If you could challenge him to some sort of match, what kind of match
That's just my opinion.
would you like to face Brock Lesnar in? Would you want to face him in a wrestling ring or in the octagon? No, I like Brock Lesnar. You know, I have no problem with him. You seem to have a problem with him, but no, I think he's all right.
Enough.
Yeah, I mean, I don't pay much attention to Raw and SmackDown anymore, as I think you know. I watch NXT every week on Hulu, and that's about it. But I do pay attention to what goes on Raw and SmackDown, so I did know about the Money in the Bank pay-per-view, but I just find those shows hard to sit through. The writing is just so bad.
Yeah, I guess overall the pay-per-view was pretty good from what I hear. The word on the street said it was pretty good.
Yes, the word on the street. Well, be careful, though, who you talk to on the street, Easy G.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, something I want to give a shout-out real quick.
Shout-outs.
It doesn't happen very often in my life, but the
Your wife?
Yeah, one time I was, I forget the guy's name, but once I forget his name, I'm going to give him a shout out again. Yeah, I had a dentist appointment years ago, and it was like 0 degrees out, and the dentist said, I'll give you a ride home. And after that, I said, boy, you are one of the best dentists I've ever had. And I called him the best dentist in the world because don't tell anybody. He goes, it ruined my reputation. Ooh. And then the guy retired a couple of years later, but I can't think of the guy's name, so I gave my mother a call, so maybe she can remember.
You may have.
Anyway, so today that my boss over at Creamland, Natalie, and they know I'm having real trouble with my feet and legs all swelled up. So she offered me a ride home today. I said, "Wow, I'll take that." Yeah,
you got to be
nice.
You got to be careful,
my
though.
Boss, Natalie, for giving me a ride home today. It's only down the street, but she didn't have to do it.
Well, thank you, Natalie. Is she a little sweet on you, perhaps?
I don't think she's listening right now. She's probably working at Creamland.
Well, that's not what I was asking.
That was really nice, you know.
Do you think she's sweet on you? If you know what I mean.
I can't expect that every day, but it was really nice that she did that.
She a potential love interest?
So shout out to my boss, Natalie, for giving me a ride home. I thought that was really nice.
Shout outs to Natalie. I think Natalie deserves an air horn. There you go. You got to be careful, though, about just getting into vehicles with strange dentists.
So have a good rest of your show, and I'll be listening.
All right. Thanks, Eric. Bye-bye. All right. The great Easy G, Eric Gagnon. I once did that, by the way. I got into a Jeep with a dentist, but it wasn't my dentist. It was just some random dude who said he was a dentist. And so I was like, oh, sure, I'll go with you. And then he turned out to be Dr. Giggles. It was all very frightening. So for you youngins listening, I know it worked out okay for Eric, but if some dentist just says, hey, can I take you home? You really want to think that one through, especially if you've just had anesthesia. Your judgment might not be clear. Hello to Ed Murphy, who joins us in the Facebook live chat. Jenny noticed Easy G's comment there about your little show, his exact words. Well, I want to make the show bigger, but Easy G rebuffed my offers to try to bring him here to be the entertainment reporter on Matt Connarton Unleashed. So we just Ed Murphy says I caught that as well. Yes. Oh, hello to Jeff Scumpy Lorenz. I did stop in, by the way, at the DEF CON show. Scumpy's band, a DEF CON, played the other night at Panucci's on Saturday night. Apparently Easy G was there as well. They were discussing that on the morning show. I didn't see him. I guess I got there after him. I was only able to stay for a few. I think I stayed for 4 songs. I would have loved to have stayed longer, but I was unable to. But I listened to them do, what did they do? They did some covers. Everybody Wants Some by Van Halen, Black Days, or Fell on Black Days, whatever it's called, by Soundgarden, Jailbreak by Thin Lizzy, and The Zoo by the Scorpions. So it was wonderful to finally get to see Scumpy live. Easy G said he had to leave. He said this on the morning show. He was talking about he had to leave because it was a little too loud in there. Probably a little too loud in there for me as well. I do have tinnitus, so that was part of why I couldn't stick around for too long. Got to take care of my ears, and I didn't have any earplugs with me. But I do have the constant ringing, which does concern me because that type of thing only gets worse as you get older, and there's no real treatment for it other than there is a surgery you can get. I know that because William Shatner had to have it done because his tinnitus got so bad he actually considered suicide at one point. This was like 20 years ago. I saw a story where he was talking about it on, I think it was Entertainment Tonight. His tinnitus got that bad. But mine is still at that stage where I notice it. If I'm in a very quiet room all by myself, that's when I notice it. Otherwise, I don't notice it. So hopefully it doesn't get too much worse. Hello to Christian Cunard, who joins us in the Facebook live chat. Jenny says, we all know you have the hots for him, Maddie. I'm not sure who you mean. If you do you mean Eric's dentist? Do you mean Jack Wagner, of course, who played Frisco Jones? Like I said, Peter and I were texting about that right before the show. Here's the thing. When I was a kid watching General Hospital, he came along at a time when, the Luke and Laura thing was pretty much over, and we needed a new hero. And by we, I really mean Port Charles, New York. The fictional Port Charles, New York needed a new hero. And that hero was sent to us, my friends, in the form of Jack Wagner as Frisco Jones. So it was wonderful. Let's see. Scumpy says, hi, Matt. Jenny says, we all have the hots for Fresco. Well, I think you mean, I assume you mean Frisco, unless Fresco is someone else I'm not aware of. Let's see. So you may notice if you're watching and not just listening, I do have the lights off in the studio today because it is so hot. It is hot and sticky in here. So, but we will, we'll deal. It's that time. I'll tell you what, I'd rather be hot than cold. I definitely prefer this to winter. 603-250-6007 is the number to call. 603-250-6007. I guess the big story, and there's always a million things going on, but the big story over the weekend is Congressman Justin Amash announcing that. Jenny says, glad I didn't go. Looks like thick air. Yeah, it is. It's repressive, but that's okay. But apparently, Congressman Justin Amash has decided to announce that he is ending his political career and returning to the private sector. Now, actually, he didn't literally announce that, but that's basically what is happening. Justin Amash over the weekend saying that the first Republican in Congress to publicly say that he believes that the president should be impeached and that he had read the entire Mueller report and has concluded that the president did, in fact, commit obstruction of justice. Now, the thing is, that does mean, I mean, let's be honest about it. That does mean that his political career is over. In fact, apparently there's already a state rep in Michigan, a Republican state rep who is a Trump supporter, who has announced his intentions to primary Justin Amash in the next election. And, obviously he'll win. I mean, his challenger will win. He'll be able to easily beat Justin Amash because, Republicans, I'm sure in Amash's home state and everywhere else are furious with Justin Amash for saying this. So, obviously, well, the media reaction to this has been kind of interesting because obviously there are some in the media who have breathlessly said, oh, well, and I'll play an example for you in a moment, who have, said, well, does this mean, hello to Heidi Hamer, who joins us on Facebook, who have said, well, does this mean that other, Scumpy says, thanks for stopping in Saturday night. You're very welcome. Does this mean that other Republicans will now follow suit? And, I mean, in this particular instance, Justin Amash has actually outflanked Nancy Pelosi. Nancy Pelosi has been very disciplined in saying, well, no, we're not sure that impeachment is appropriate, which really means we know that we can't actually do it. I mean, they can move to impeach Trump in the House, but the Senate, the Republican-controlled Senate, obviously would not convict Trump. So there's really no reason to go through with it. It would kind of be a waste. I mean, some would say, well, you should do it anyway. But I've noticed the media reaction over the weekend seemed to be somewhat restrained in that a lot of people, a lot of the usual suspects who you would expect to react with, oh, is this the beginning of a domino effect? Kind of know better. Because it's not. This is an interesting story because Justin Amash is the first Republican in Congress to come out and say, yeah, we should move to impeach because the president clearly committed obstruction of justice. However, it's an interesting story, but it's not a big story. It's not a game changer. It's not a turning point in the Trump presidency because, like I said, this is really just the end of Justin Amash's political career, and that's all it is. He can't possibly win re-election. Like I said, he's going to be primaried next election if he does decide to run again, and that'll be it. He'll be done. So I don't know if he made the calculation, because typically the only Republicans in the House or Senate who ever dare to criticize Trump at all are those who have nothing to lose. In other words, they're on their way out, whether it be Jeff Flake or any number of other folks. They're on their way out. So they have nothing to lose because, well, people often say they're all scared of Trump. Of course, they're not actually scared of Trump. They're scared of Trump's base because Trump has such a hold. I say it all the time. If you're a regular listener, forgive me. I don't mean to belabor the point and berate this, but Trump enjoys a loyalty, which from what we hear is very important to him, among his base that Ronald Reagan, Saint Reagan, the patron saint of conservatism, would be envious of, right? Just the hold. I always say, too, it's the greatest mass hypnosis I've ever seen. Most Republicans I know are incapable, not all, but most are incapable of being upset with Trump about anything. I always use tariffs, and we'll get to that. I played a song about that at the beginning of the show. I always use tariffs as an example. You know, the Republican Party, all you Republicans, you were all free traders. And then Trump came along and said, no, I like tariffs. We're not free traders anymore. We're protectionists now. And then you guys all said, okay, we're protectionists now, and we love tariffs. And that's all it takes, right? Daddy says, no, it's this way now, and you all go, okay. So for someone to have that strong of a hold on his disciples, and I use that term quite deliberately, obviously you're all going to side with Trump over Justin Amash. So Justin Amash has committed political suicide. Now, I'm not knocking what he's done, and I'm not knocking him. I respect him for standing up and speaking out and saying, hey, I believe that the president did, in fact, commit obstruction of justice. I've read the report, and this is my conclusion. Good for him. The only thing, though, is the thing I'm a little bit suspicious of is I have to believe that either he's extraordinarily principled to risk his political career, because he's not an idiot. He has to know this is the end of his political career. Or he had already made a decision. He'd had enough, and he wants to go back to the private sector. But I'll play a clip for you from this is S.E. Cupp from CNN. She does a show on CNN. I forget what it's called. It doesn't say it here in the title. But and S.E. Cupp is she's not a liberal Democrat, by the way. If you don't know, I mean she's kind of a conservative libertarian. Although I think she kind of downplays that aspect ideologically in order to, have a job on CNN. I think she kind of has to do that. And she's clearly a never-Trumper. But this was her reaction. So I'm going to play for you some of her analysis, because I really respect her and I respect and admire her intellect. I think she has a really keen political mind. But in this case, I'm going to play for you what she had to say about this on her show, and then I'll tell you why she is so just monumentally incorrect in her analysis.
Here's tonight's breaking news headline. This is big. The debate over impeachment seemed like a non-starter, given Republicans have circled the wagons around President Trump for 2+ years. But hours ago, a GOP lawmaker said President Trump has, in fact, engaged in impeachable conduct. Michigan Congressman Justin Amash, in a long Twitter thread today, wrote, "Here are my principal conclusions. Attorney General Barr has deliberately misrepresented Mueller's report. President Trump has engaged in impeachable conduct. Partisanship has eroded our system of checks and balances.
Well, duh.
Few members of Congress have read the report. I offer these conclusions only after having read Mueller's redacted report carefully and completely, having read or watched pertinent statements and testimony, and having discussed this matter with my staff, who thoroughly reviewed materials and provided me with further analysis." In comparing Barr's principal conclusions, congressional testimony, and other statements to Mueller's report, it is clear that Barr intended to mislead the public about Special Counsel Robert Mueller's analysis and findings. Barr's misrepresentations are significant but often subtle, frequently taking the form of sleight of hand qualifications or logical fallacies which he hopes people will not notice. Under our Constitution, the president shall be removed from office on impeachment for and conviction of treason, bribery, or other high crimes and misdemeanors. While high crimes and misdemeanors is not defined, the context implies conduct that violates the public trust. Contrary to Barr's portrayal, Mueller's report reveals that President Trump engaged in specific actions and a pattern of behavior that meet the threshold for impeachment. In fact, Mueller's report identifies multiple examples of conduct satisfying all the elements of obstruction and justice, and undoubtedly, any person who is not the president of the United States would be indicted based on such evidence.
Yeah, absolutely.
Impeachment, which is a special form of indictment, does not even require probable cause that a crime, for example, obstruction of justice, has been committed. It simply requires a finding that an official has engaged in careless, abusive, corrupt, or otherwise dishonorable conduct. While impeachment should be undertaken only in extraordinary circumstances, the risk we face in an environment of extreme partisanship is not that Congress will employ it as a remedy too often, but rather that Congress will employ it so rarely that it cannot deter misconduct. Our system of checks and balances relies on each branch's jealously guarding its powers and upholding its duties under our Constitution. When loyalty to a political party or to an individual trumps loyalty to the Constitution, the rule of law, the foundation of liberty, crumbles. We've witnessed members of Congress from both parties shift their views 180 degrees on the importance of character, on the principles of obstruction of justice, depending on whether they're discussing Bill Clinton or Donald Trump.
True.
Few members of Congress even read Mueller's report. Their minds were made up based on partisan affiliation, and it showed, with representatives and senators from both parties issuing definitive statements on the 448-page report's conclusions within just hours of its release. America's institutions depend on officials to uphold both the rules and spirit of our constitutional system, even when to do so is personally inconvenient or yields a politically unfavorable outcome. Our Constitution is brilliant and awesome. It deserves a government to match. Again, that was Justin Amash's full Twitter thread just hours ago. Here's the deal. Democrats like Nancy Pelosi have insisted that impeachment would require public support and the support of Republicans. Well, they don't have plural yet, but they do have one. That's significant. So will one turn into some?
Okay, and that's where she kind of goes over the top there at the end, because we already know the answer to that. Oh, hello to Fred Bonig from thedailyripple.org in the Facebook live chat. So a part of why I wanted to play that is, she reads the entire text of the tweet storm, if you will. Did that term even exist before the Trump presidency? Tweet storm? Maybe it did. I'm not sure. I'm bad at Twitter. But she bookends it by saying, at the beginning she says, this is big. This is a big deal. And she ends it by saying one Republican so far will more follow. And, the answer is no. No. It's extreme. Like I said, I strongly suspect, I don't know what's in Justin Amash's mind and in his heart and what his future plans are, but I have to, he's either a very rare, a sort of unicorn type of politician who just, the truth and principles and all of that is so important to him that he's willing to self-immolate to stand up for those principles. Either it's that, and it may be that. And if it is, hats off to him, even though I can't wear hats, especially in this weather. It's so hot. Hats off to him if that's the case. Or he was already intending this to be his final term in Congress, and he is returning to the private sector anyway, and had nothing to lose by doing this because, like I said, this is the end of his career. He will be primaried. Somebody's already announced it. Trump will campaign for Amash's primary opponent. Trump will go to Michigan, and he'll do a rally where he brings Amash's opponent on stage, and they talk about Hillary's emails and lead a chant of "lock her up," and they and they talk about sleepy Joe Biden, and they talk about what a terrible person Justin Amash is for daring to question Daddy. And then that'll be it. The whoever this guy is, we'll get to it in a minute. I have the article. But whoever this new guy is will be the new Republican nominee for that seat. And Amash will be done. So it's not, like I said, S.E. Cupp, she started the segment by saying, this is big. No, it's not big. It's very interesting. And that's why I'm leading with it today, too. It's very interesting. But it's not big. It doesn't, in the end, it will have zero difference. I can't imagine there's a Republican anywhere who watched what happened over the weekend with Justin Amash and said, maybe I need to rethink how I feel about Trump. No. It will make zero difference. It will have no influence. And it certainly isn't going to, even though now, I watched a Young Turks clip where Cenk Uygur was saying, well, how's it feel, Nancy Pelosi? How's it feel to be outflanked by Justin Amash on the question of impeachment? He's more of a leader than you are, and et cetera. Kind of, sort of trying to shame Nancy Pelosi, who's been very sort of disciplined about, I actually think she's probably right, to be honest with you. Not about the merits of impeaching Trump, but just about, look, again, like I said before, the House can move to impeach. He'll be tried in the Senate by a Republican-controlled Senate. He'll be acquitted. And that's it. It will have failed. Like, why do something? I know sometimes in politics, they do these grand symbolic gestures. My favorite of all time being, 50 times or 60 times when John Boehner was Speaker of the House, they tried to repeal Obamacare, knowing that it was going to fail each time and they didn't have the votes, but they kept doing it anyway just to show, look, we're trying. I'm not a big fan of grand symbolic gestures. Why waste time? Then again, maybe it's a good distraction, so, they can't do any harm either while they're trying to, but they can't do anything productive either. So, But that's all this is. This is ultimately it's a non-story. And I know it seems like I'm spending a lot of time on a non-story, but it's not a non-story. It's an interesting story. But if you're sitting there going, whoa, geez, a Republican actually came out against Trump and talked about impeachment, this is a game changer. It's not. This will be within probably the next 48 hours, this will be almost completely forgotten about. The only thing potentially keeping this story alive will be Trump talking about it, because Trump will not forget this, and Trump will bring it up all. You'll see random tweets from Trump now and then, of course, like I said, Amash will be primaried and he'll be done. But I'm curious: is it possible that there is a lobbying job already waiting for Justin Amash? And so he was like, well, you know what? I don't like the president, but I know I've got this lobbying gig. Because in politics, you often fail upward. You lose an election and then you walk into a job making 10 times as like Eric Cantor. Remember when Eric Cantor got voted out in North Carolina? And he's like, well, shed no tears for Eric Cantor. He got primaried by that guy, Dave Bratt, the Tea Partier. And then Eric Cantor, who clearly did not expect to lose, lost. And then he went and walked into some job with like a multi-million-dollar salary. And it's like, okay, well, that's what happens. You fail upward in politics. Look at Beto O'Rourke. He lost his last election trying to challenge Ted Cruz. Now he's running for president. You just fail upward. It's great. But let's look at, so Amash today, he doubled down on his critical remarks about Trump. So this is from thehill.com. Let's see. Amash tweeted, quote, people who say there were no underlying crimes and therefore the president could not have intended to illegally obstruct the investigation and therefore cannot be impeached are resting their argument on several falsehoods. And that's interesting to me, by the way, because one of the arguments that I keep hearing against obstruction is you can't, I think Dershowitz had said this at one point and others, you can't be guilty of obstructing an investigation if the investigation you're obstructing was investigating something you weren't actually guilty of to begin with. Look, and I'm no lawyer, but to me it sounds like a kind of a weak argument. I understand the logic behind it. So in other words, the logic behind it is, well, if there was no collusion and Trump was trying to obstruct an investigation of collusion when there was none, then he's not really guilty of obstruction. I don't think that holds up legally. Again, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a legal expert of any kind. I'm not a legal scholar, but on its face, that sounds false to me. Because a lot of things would be legal or you could easily get away with by that logic. I forget who said it, but somebody used the analogy. It's like if you suppose you're participating in some sort of murder for hire scheme, and then the murder ends up not happening. Well, you're still guilty of attempted murder, And if you attempt to obstruct justice in the course of that murder investigation, well, just because the crime went unfulfilled, the crime of murder, doesn't mean you're not guilty of obstructing an investigation into an attempted murder. You can't just say, in other words, you can't just say, well, there was no crime, so it's fine. Let's see. Fred points out in the Facebook live chat, except obstruction is illegal all by itself. Right, exactly. So it doesn't matter, ultimately, what you're obstructing or whether you're obstructing an investigation of something that did or did not ultimately turn out to have occurred. The obstruction itself is the crime. So it says here, again, this is from thehill.com, in a series of subsequent tweets, Amash sought to shoot down a number of prominent defenses of the president's behavior illustrated in special counsel Robert Mueller's report. Amash argued it would be inaccurate to say, quote, there were no underlying crimes, unquote, revealed by Mueller's investigation, that obstruction of justice requires an underlying crime, that the president should be allowed to use any means to end a so-called frivolous investigation, and that the threshold of high crimes and misdemeanors requires actual criminal charges. So here's what we'll go through these. This is what he tweeted. Well, actually, let me skip down. We'll skip down to kind of this. I don't want to read all these, but so Amash on Saturday became the first Republican lawmaker to say Trump engaged in impeachable conduct. The House Freedom Caucus member, and by the way, that's important to point out. This is not, because I'm sure, I could understand how if someone doesn't know anything about Justin Amash, you might think, oh, well, is he some sort of moderate to liberal Republican who isn't on board with the Trump agenda anyway, and he's actually with the Democrats and this and that. No, Amash is a Tea Party guy. He's a Freedom Caucus guy, which I guess sort of supplanted the Tea Party. But no, Amash is a very conservative guy. He's a very right-wing guy. Fred in the Facebook live chat posted this legal code which defines obstruction of justice as an act that, quote, corruptly or by threats or force or by any threatening letter or communication influences, obstructs, or impedes or endeavors to influence, obstruct, or impede the due administration of justice, unquote. And by that standard, by the way, so Trump telling Don McGahn, hey, we got to, I need you to go fire Mueller or whatever. I forget exactly. We'll get to McGahn later. There's some breaking news with that. I forget exactly what he said to McGahn. And McGahn told Mueller, yeah, because McGahn gave however much time it was that he spent with Mueller and his team. McGahn said, yeah, the president told me to do this, and I said, no, I'd rather resign than do that. That's pretty clear obstruction. Let's see. This code goes on. Again, this is from Fred. Whoever, with intent to avoid, evade, prevent, or obstruct compliance, in whole or in part, with any civil investigative demand, duly and properly made under the Antitrust Civil Process Act, willfully withholds, misrepresents, removes from any place, conceals, covers. This goes on for a long time. All right, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but the point is, and if you're in the Facebook live chat, you can see it. And if you're just, listening in your car or whatever, maybe you can look at it later. But the point is, this is a pretty broad law, clearly, in the sense that it covers a lot of stuff. So in other words, the way I understand it is, it's not as though, see, what Bill Barr would argue is obstruction would have to be this very specific thing under these very specific circumstances. But no, it's actually pretty broad. There's a lot of stuff that falls under obstruction. Doesn't matter if it's trying to obstruct an investigation into something that may or may not have occurred. Doesn't matter how the obstruction was done. Doesn't matter if the obstruction was successful or not. If you even attempt obstruction in any way, you've committed obstruction. And it's a crime. You can't do that. Let's see. So Trump promptly returned fire on Sunday, calling Amash a loser and a total lightweight, the normal, typical sort of Trump insults, and accusing him of making the comments, quote, for the sake of getting his name out there through controversy, unquote. That doesn't even make sense. Like I said, Amash is not a dumb guy. He just ended his political career. Unless he thinks he's going to get a show. I mean, maybe Trump is sort of projecting a little bit of himself onto Justin Amash there. Trump clearly has said things in the past. Look, Trump's presidential campaign, part of why it was so successful is remarks that he made that were controversial, that got him in the news, that got Republicans enthusiastic about him, But why would Amash do this? This doesn't help. Like I said, this has ended Amash's political career. The president has maintained that Mueller's investigation found no collusion and no obstruction. The special counsel did not establish the Trump campaign conspired with the Russian government, and Mueller neither implicated nor exonerated the president on obstruction charges, leaving the matter up to Congress for further investigation. House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy, see, now they're going to circle the wagons. This is why ultimately what Amash has done will have zero effect. House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy, Republican of California, yesterday suggested Amash made the claim to get attention and noted the congressman's tendency to buck the party on legislative votes. What has he bucked the party on? Maybe he has bucked the party on something. I can't imagine what, though. Like I said, he's a pretty reliable House Freedom Caucus guy. Then again, I don't know that much about him, but I can't imagine what he's actually bucked the party on. And like I said, I don't think this whole getting attention thing, for what? It's negative attention in terms of his career. That would be like, it would almost be, this is a terrible analogy, but I'm going to run with it. It would almost be like if Michael Jackson, when he was alive, saying, well, he brought these, he planted these allegations of child sexual abuse out in the media to try to get attention for himself. It's like, that would be absurd. Why would someone try to get attention for himself in a way that's going to harm him? McCarthy also said, and he said this on Fox, quote, it's a question whether he's even in our Republican conference as a whole. What? He's a Freedom Caucus guy. He's as in your Republican conference as it gets. He's probably more in your Republican conference than you are. I mean, this is quite the spin on McCarthy's part. Quote, what he wants is attention in this process. He's not a criminal attorney. He's never met Mueller. He's never met Barr. Now he's coming forward with this because this is what he wants, unquote. Yeah, that's a big reach. Michigan State Rep Jim Lauer said this morning he would challenge Amash in a GOP primary for the 3rd Congressional District nomination. Amash has represented the district since 2011. He won re-election last year with 54% of the vote. Well, I mean, this Jim Lauer guy is, to talk about right place, right time. He will. I mean, if he's serious about being a primary challenger to Amash, I mean, that's his nomination. Fred posted a bio. I assume this is from Wikipedia in the Facebook live chat of Justin Amash. Like I said, I don't know that much about the guy, but he worked as a corporate attorney for his family's business for a year before being elected to the Michigan House of Representatives in 2008. Yeah, so he's been there for a while. He's been there for more than a decade. So there you go. We'll probably move on from that because, like I said, that's all going to blow over. The White House has apparently told Don McGahn. Remember Don? Oh, I have a song. Maybe I'll play it later. The Don McGahn Band song that I like to play on the show once in a while. The White House has told Don McGahn he is not to comply with a subpoena to testify. I'm not sure how that works. Oh, I found the song. Can the White House just order someone not to comply with a subpoena? It says here, this is from HuffPost. Trump to block ex-White House lawyer Don McGahn from testifying on Mueller report. A Justice Department legal opinion says the House Judiciary Committee cannot compel McGahn to testify. Wow. Okay. We're in some new territory here, my friends. The Trump administration indicated today it wants to block former White House counsel Don McGahn from testifying before the House Judiciary. Trump intends to have McGahn defy a congressional subpoena and skip a Tuesday morning hearing, the latest move in an ongoing battle between the administration and House Democrats. In a letter to committee chairman Jerry Nadler, Democrat of New York, current White House counsel Pat Cipollone said McGahn is absolutely immune from being compelled by Congress to testify about his time as White House counsel. So I assume this is a form of executive privilege. The letter said, quote, there is no question that the position of counsel to the president falls within the scope of the immunity. The constitutional immunity of current and former senior advisors to the president exists to protect the institution of the presidency and, as stated by Attorney General Janet Reno, quote, may not be overborne by competing congressional interests, unquote. Janet Reno, of course, who was the Attorney General under Bill Clinton. Some of you might remember she was the AG during Waco, which she took a lot of flack for some of the decisions made in the Waco standoff. Fred says executive privilege only applies to specific issues, not everything he can talk about. The letter cited a written opinion issued Monday by the Justice Department's Office of Legal Counsel stating the House Judiciary could not compel McGahn to testify. Ooh, here is the letter. Oh, it's too long. You know what if you're a regular listener, you know what I was thinking. You could probably see the wheels turning in my head. I was thinking maybe I'll do one of my infamous dramatic readings, but it's a long letter. Okay, so getting back to this, the question of whether McGahn, quote, need comply with the subpoena purporting to require an appearance is different from the question of whether the advisor's testimony would itself address privileged matters, unquote, reads the memo from the Office of Legal Counsel. Quote, therefore, the public disclosure of the special counsel's report does not have any legal bearing upon the force of the congressional subpoena, unquote. McGahn is an important witness to some of the most troubling activity outlined in the second volume of special counsel Robert Mueller's report, which focused on the question of whether Trump obstructed justice. The report mentions an instance where McGahn said the president directed him to fire Mueller as special counsel. And that's, as you might remember, that's where McGahn said, no, I will resign. I'm not doing that. And he told someone, was it John Kelly or I forget, according to the report, he told someone, yeah, the president's asking me to do weird stuff. Apparently Don McGahn not into doing weird stuff or not interested in putting himself in legal jeopardy for Trump. The OLC's memo says that McGahn's, quote, departure as counsel to the president does not alter his immunity from compelled congressional testimony on matters related to this service to the president, unquote. The public disclosure of the redacted Mueller report, quote, did not constitute a general waiver concerning Mr. McGahn's communications with the president on those subjects or any other subjects, unquote. The House Judiciary Committee issued a subpoena last month for McGahn as part of its investigation into Trump's potential obstruction of justice in the Russia probe. The subpoena demanded that McGahn testify before the committee and supply documents related to several incidents described in Mueller's redacted report. The White House subsequently ordered McGahn not to comply with the committee's documents request. White House Acting Chief of Staff Mick Mulvaney, who's big on not complying with things. You know, remember he said, well, we're not going to comply with the tax return subpoena and so forth. Said earlier this month that documents, quote, implicate significant executive branch confidentiality interests and executive privilege, unquote. McGahn's lawyer, William Burke, told the Wall Street Journal. Today, White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders claimed the White House, quote, has been completely transparent with the Mueller investigation. The argument is often made. There's more here to what she said. I'm going to give you a minute to put your boots on before I read the rest of what Sarah Sanders had to say. But, the argument is often made that, Trump himself makes the argument too, that Trump and the administration cooperated fully, gave them all the documents they wanted, etc. And it's like, and Trump was even willing to answer written questions, not actually sit down with Mueller, but answer written questions and so forth. But Trump never fired Mueller, etc. I mean, that's often the argument, but it's right there in Mueller's own report that Trump tried several times. What was the funniest one was he told, I forget if it was McGahn or somebody else. He told somebody, or he told Rosenstein, or he told someone to tell Rosenstein. It's hard to keep it all straight in my head. He said, yeah, we need to tell Mueller, but I can't do it myself. Got to keep my hands clean. So I need one of you to figure out how to do it. We need to tell Mueller to restrict his investigation in terms of Russian meddling only to future Russian meddling. Nothing that's already happened. Of course, you can't actually investigate things that are going to happen in the future. I guess maybe Trump's seen that Tom Cruise movie Minority Report too many times. They have their pre-crime division. But, you really can't, saying, only investigate future stuff that happens is the same thing as saying, you can't investigate anything. That would have effectively ended the investigation. Fred says, did her nose grow a bit? Referring to Sarah Sanders. Hello to Rhonda in the Facebook live chat. So here's what else Sarah Sanders had to say. Hopefully I gave y'all enough time to put on your boots. Quote, the Department of Justice has provided a legal opinion stating that, based on longstanding bipartisan and congressional precedent, the former counsel to the president cannot be forced to give such testimony, and Mr. McGahn has been directed to act accordingly. This action has been taken in order to ensure that future presidents can effectively execute the responsibilities of the office of the presidency, unquote. Oh, that's why. Oh, see, I misunderstood. I mean sarcastic, of course. I misunderstood. I thought that y'all just were a little bit freaked out at the idea of McGahn testifying in front of the House Judiciary Committee. And by the way, they are not, the Trump administration, not happy with Don McGahn personally, and as a means of punishment, they are not this time around using McGahn's law firm. Apparently, in the re-election campaign, they are not using McGahn's law firm as they had done in the past. Apparently, if I read this correctly, there are some things that the firm that McGahn works for is handling in terms of things that they're finishing up handling, I guess, basically. But they will not be used in the future. And someone in the administration said to somebody in the media, well, why would you want to reward your enemies? So they actually regard McGahn's law firm now as the enemy. So they now regard Don McGahn as the enemy. So I'm going to play this in a moment. Rocky Mountain Mike, one of my favorite YouTubers, will listen to a little Don McGahn man and a couple other quick things, and then we'll come back for hour number 2 of Matt Connarton Unleashed. I'll probably go ahead and turn the lights on now that it's getting a little darker out. If you're just joining us and you're watching online on the Facebook, it's very, very warm in here today. It's hot and sticky and humid, so it's kind of nice to just, on a hot summer day, even though it's not summer yet, just leave the lights off, open the windows, leave the lights off. It just makes it seem a little bit cooler in here, but it is getting a little dark, and I do like a lot of light to help kind of keep the neurons firing, So we will be back with more Matt Connarton Unleashed. We are live on WMNH 95.3 FM. It's a little Don McGahn man for you.
We're all down with that. Hurry now, don't be late, 'cause it's time to catch that rat. You and me, we're logging on to see his latest crimes. Guaranteed to blow your mind. This is about to go down. Hey Trump, prepare yourself for the Don McGahn. Man, you never heard a sound like a Don McGahn. Man, Trump, he will lose control when the Don McGahn starts to jam. You say this cat's out of sight? Everything he says seems to check out right.
Well, times is tough. I'm broke and I'm ugly. I've been swiping for months, but nobody loves me. This morning the answer was right in the paper. Gonna track down the homecoming queen and her, cause thank the Lord, well, I'm in Alabama. So after I do my 6 months in the slammer, I'll come out of Papa with the best baby mama in the world. Now, the apple don't fall too far from the tree, so maybe my kid'll be a rapist like me. I'll show him the ropes, how to spread his seed, and watch it carry to term, guaranteed. So praise Jesus and Christian white men who want to make the world safe for rapists again and protect the right to choose the best baby mama in the world. Now if the good Lord above a girl child gives, I'll keep her locked up as long as she lives. But if she gets jumped and has her a scare, we'll just cross into Florida, take care of it there. Now I've drunk me a fifth and I've gassed up the truck, so send me a prayer, at least wish me luck, 'cause I'm off on the hunt for the best baby mama in the world.
Became a politician or president, had a few core convictions. He's famous for having a very flexible ideology. ideology, where he changes his mind on things left and right. But he does believe on certain things about trade and certain things about tariffs, dating back from the 1980s when he was a New York businessman. He believed that tariffs are important and helpful to grow an American economy. Understanding there might be some short-term pain, but he thinks that the good will outweigh the bad. And what we're seeing here is the president has time and time again suggested that, first of all, that trade wars, as he put it, are good and easy to win. He also has deemed himself tariff man. He feels that tariffs are a key way, punitive tariffs, to punish another economy, another country's economy, and to grow the United States' own economy. He does not always seem to understand, at least publicly, how they work, and seems to, if not understand, at least doesn't want to discuss the impact it will have on the American consumers, how your average American will go to a store and now have to pay more for goods because of these tariffs, because the ones that China has put on American goods. And obviously, a lot of things Americans buy are made overseas. Now, the president argues that, like tariffs, well, in best case scenario, things be manufactured at home, so therefore you wouldn't have to worry about it. And sure, there's an argument to be made that some tariffs could lead to productivity at home, but there are certain things that just America doesn't make anymore, and other countries do, and do a lot cheaper. So this is going to be passed on to the consumers, and politically, that's dangerous for the president, because a lot of these people who could be adversely affected, whether because they're just buying goods at the store, or let's say China hits back in certain industries and commodities like soybeans in the Midwest, those are the very voters, those heartland voters who supported Donald Trump in 2016, and he needs again in 2020.
Jesus, buddy.
And this applies to all aspects of foreign policy, but particularly in economic foreign policy and trade, that the world is a zero-sum game. Like, if they're winning, we're losing. He doesn't really understand that countries can sort of grow together, the market can grow together, or at least he doesn't voice that opinion.
1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. Let me tell you how it will be. It's not like I said at the G20. 'Cause I'm the tariff man. Yeah, I'm the tariff man. The stock market is plummeting. And I got angry calls from Xi Jinping. 'Cause I'm the tariff man. Yeah, I'm the tariff man. If you sell us stuff, I'll tax your ass. If you tax us back, no liquid gas. I don't care at all. The costs are passed onto America's middle class. Tariff man. Cause I'm the tariff man. Yeah, I'm the tariff man. Let's have a bigly huge trade war. Mr. China. I'll wear a mask and cape for sure. Xi Jinping. Cause I'm the tariff man. Yeah, I'm the tariff man. Now my advice for Xi Jinping. Tariff man. You can't stop tariff man winning. Tariff man. Cause I'm the tariff man. Yeah, I'm the tariff man. And I'm working for no one but Putin. Tariff man.
I am Tariff Man. There he goes again, tweeting up a store with his own skin. Has he lost his mind?
It's not funny. It's nothing.
Hey, everybody. We are in hour number 2. Matt Connarton Unleashed. We're live on WMNH 95.3 FM, emanating from downtown Manchester, New Hampshire. You know what? While those songs were playing, I was going to get up and turn the lights on, and then I totally forgot. Oh, well. And it is hot. It's still like really hot, so maybe it's better to just leave the lights off in here. It looks all right on the if you're watching online on Facebook. Of course, we are on WMNH 95.3 and on Comcast 97 in Manchester, streaming at WMNHradio.org and on Facebook on the Facebook Live Matt Connarton Unleashed Facebook page. Hello, everybody. I have some really stunning news to share, my friends. So I didn't. I'd never heard of this guy, and apparently hardly anyone else has either. But oh, whoops! What'd I do with it? Did I? Let me reopen it. I'd lost this. I'd closed this window by mistake. So there was not the window here in the studio. Certainly, it's very, very warm in here. Where did this go? Geez, I totally, sorry, everybody. I have a shocking news story for you. Oh, here we go. Yeah, it's here. Okay. There was this actor who had committed suicide recently. His name was Isaac Cappy. Now, I'm not familiar with Isaac Cappy, and there's a good chance neither are you. Not exactly a household name. But he committed suicide, apparently, which was, obviously very, very tragic. You always hate to hear about that. But was it a suicide? Because according to right-wing commentator and conspiracy theorist Chris McDaniel, actor Isaac Cappy's death was actually a ritual occult sacrifice. Can you believe it? This is stunning. It says here, last Friday night, right-wing commentator and radical conspiracy theorist Chris McDonald featured self-proclaimed political occultist expert Corey Daniel on the MC Files program, where Daniel asserted that the suicide was an obscure actor was actually a ritualistic occult sacrifice. Last year, a relatively unknown actor named Isaac Cappy became a celebrity in the right-wing conspiracy world for baselessly alleging that various Hollywood stars were involved in pedophilia. Last week, Cappy took his own life by jumping from an overpass in Arizona. Well, apparently some others know something about this. We don't. I'm going to play the audio for you in just a moment. It's only a couple of minutes long. But I play this because, I'm concerned. And I have someone specific in mind, a frequent contributor on the program, Jeff Scumpy Lorenz of the band Def Con. And I went to see the band the other night at Panucci's. But he's also an actor. And I'm just concerned, like any of you thespians out there, you need to be aware that you could be the victim of an occult ritual satanic sacrifice or something. This is just something to be aware of, in your own careers. Let's listen to this explanation, this theory about what actually happened to world-renowned thespian Isaac Cappy. Here it is. This is terrifying, my friends. I hope you're listening to this, Scumpy. I don't want this to happen to you. The victim of an occult ritual sacrifice. I'm waiting to see if this is going to play. I've got a spinning wheel. Oh, jeez. I think the internet here is running a little slow. Maybe I'll try it on the other. I'll try it on the other computer. Hang on, bear with me. It's not playing. I want to learn more about this because I want to save some people. I want to save people. I want to heal people. I'm here to do the Lord's work, my friends. Somebody has to. All right, I'm pulling up the, I think the website's not loading. Oh, here, maybe it's been hacked. Here we go. Okay, Isaac Cappy. Where'd it go? Maybe they took down the story? That's weird. Oh, here we go. I found it. They did move it. All right, let's see if it'll play on this. Because I want to know if this is a real thing. Let's see if it'll play on this one.
But in the letter, he likens himself in black and white to Judas. To Judas. He said that he made a mistake and he sold out the Q movement and he sold out the truthers, right?
By the way, Q, we haven't heard from Q lately. If Q happens to call into the show today, we'll have to ask him about this because Q, if you're listening, I want to know, did you have anything to do with the death of beloved actor, star of stage and screen, Isaac Cappy? Still have no idea who the guy is. Did you have something to do with that, Q? This is very upsetting. Oh, hello to Wayne Noel, who joins us in the Facebook live chat. I hope you didn't have anything to do with this, Wayne. All right, let's hear the rest of this.
In the video, he likes himself 3 times to that. And I see a lot of repetitive ritual scripting over and over and over again. And I'm thinking, this is really bizarre. He was playing that weird game where he never said what he did, but he says it's going to come out at the same time. It was a really weird video. The whole video, he has these wooden planks behind him. Oh. Like you'd see back in the 60s and 70s from cabins. And he's wearing this fleece, the sheep, the sacrifice, a fleece-lined jacket with a red Levi tab right over his heart. Okay? I noticed the symbology in that video, and it looks like the way his camera's setting, like below him, it looks like he's filming being laying down in a coffin the whole time talking. He doesn't move with this fleece-lined jacket up against him and the red tab at the heart. I think it was being signaled there that he was a sacrifice. And then, of course, you have the whole Judas thing. That happened. That happened at 7:22 in the morning, which, by the way...
No, wait. Now, before you... we'll play the rest of it, but I'm thinking this. Before some of you just go, oh, this guy sounds crazy. Didn't, in the Bible, doesn't Judas wear a fleece jacket? I'm not sure. I mean, it's been it's been a long time since I was raised Catholic, but I haven't revisited that. But I just seem to remember Sister Margarita saying something about that in 8th grade. I could be wrong.
He outed Seth Green at 7:22.
Wow.
July 22nd last year is when he outed Seth Green. He died at 7:22 in the morning. If you invert 722 to 22 over 7, you know what you get? That's the fractional approximation for pi, 3.1.
3.1, exactly.
Okay, so...
Aha! I love when these guys do this stuff, by the way, when they bring out the numbers and start doing all this stuff with numbers like, did you know if you divide 10 by 2 and you get 5, and then what's, if you go up one number, that's 6, and then if you have 3 6s, that's the mark of the beast, but if you take the mark of the beast and you divide it by 3, then you have 222, and 222 is the number you get when... someone does a ritual occult sacrifice on an actor that no one's ever heard of. Aha! It's just funny that you can do all kinds of dumb stuff with numbers. It's great.
You have a lot of mathematical and symbolic shenanigans going on here. You have DPS closing this thing down.
What's DPS?
Within hours, saying, it was a murder. I'm actually going to do some research here. Pastor, I am toying with the idea. I don't know how to. I've never done anything like this before. Of starting a movement demanding an investigation.
Yes,
demanding it from somebody. Somebody pick it up.
Right? No, hey, that makes sense. This guy's on to something because I don't know if y'all know about this, but most things don't get investigated. They're just sort of, it's like, oh, look at this that happened, and then somebody writes a report and then it goes in a drawer or something. Hardly anything ever actually gets investigated. So this guy's onto something. Let's have an actual investigation. Maybe somebody could write a couple of things down and maybe have them in a couple of different drawers in case something happens to one thing in one drawer. You still have the other thing in the other drawer. I like the way this guy thinks. Investigations and accountability and so forth.
Have a guy outing, over 10 people in Hollywood.
I mean, the guy was wearing a fleece coat and there were wooden planks. How do you not investigate that?
For pedophilia. And then he dies on a bridge after making a video saying he's not suicidal. It's bizarre.
Well, there you go. All right. Well, that seals it for me. That's clearly there was an occult ritual sacrifice involved here. I think it's obvious to all of us. And, that Q reference in the beginning of that was pretty interesting. Oh, hello to Dr. Jeff Cassell, who joins us in the Facebook live chat. Fred Bonick from the Daily Ripple said, Judas did not wear fleece, but John the Baptist did. Very interesting. I don't know if our friend with his theory knows that, but you know what? He'll figure it out because he's going to start a movement to have an investigation. And I think that's very exciting. That deserves an air horn, Right? I'm all for investigating things. Yes. Okay. Well, rest in peace, Isaac Cappy. Was that his name? I don't even know who the guy was. Anywho, let's see. So we have, it's one of those things. Well, actually, let's do this. So we have some breaking news. We'll go to that next. Judge upholds Democrat subpoena for Trump financial records. Oh, well, this could be bad news for the commander-in-chief. Let's see. Politico reports. Again, this is breaking news. This just happened, my friends. I need a breaking news sound effect. I always say that, and then I don't do it. Well, I suppose we can use the air horn for breaking news. A federal judge, this is from Politico, a federal judge upheld a congressional subpoena seeking President Trump's financial records from an accounting firm, dealing a blow to the president's efforts to resist Democratic investigations. U.S. District Judge Amit Mehta's ruling means that Mazars USA must comply with the House Oversight and Reform Committee subpoena for 8 years of Trump's financial records, though the president is certain to appeal the ruling. The president filed suit last month to block the subpoena, arguing that it amounted to an abuse of congressional authority. Oversight Committee Chairman Elijah Cummings, Democrat of Maryland, issued the subpoena to Mazars last month as part of the panel's investigation into whether Trump committed financial crimes before he became president. In particular, the company has sought to corroborate specific claims made by Trump's former personal attorney and fixer, Michael Cohen. Yes, earlier this year, Cohen turned over documents to the panel which purport to show that Trump artificially inflated and deflated the values of his assets to suit his personal financial benefit. I do recall Michael Cohen...
says who?
Yeah, says you. I do recall Michael Cohen saying that during his public testimony. Everybody pads their resume a bit, but let's see. Fred in the Facebook live chat says, it's from Matthew 3, verse 4. Great book, the book of Matthew. I'm named after Matthew in the Bible, by the way. Fred quotes Matthew 3, 4. Now, John, or as Trump would probably say, Matthew 3:4. Now, John himself was clothed in camel's hair with a leather belt around his waist, and his food was locusts and wild honey. Locusts? I would not devour locusts, my friends. I don't care if I lived thousands of years ago and I was in the Bible. I would be like, locusts? You got to be kidding me. Can I just get like a burger and fries or something? And Fred says bank fraud, insurance fraud. Oh, my goodness. Well, I can't believe that a man like Donald John Trump would be guilty of anything ever. I mean, maybe raw dogging a porn star, but I can't imagine he would be guilty of some sort of financial crime. This is terribly distressing. Let's see. For example, Cohen told lawmakers that Trump submitted false financial statements to the Deutsche Bank in 2014 as he was seeking a loan to buy the Buffalo Bills NFL team. That came up on the show the other day, by the way, when John Hopwood was here, how that's there's a theory that part of why Trump gets so upset about these athletes kneeling at these games, I mean, aside from, of course, his base loves it when Trump gets upset about that kind of thing, is that he's bitter toward the NFL because the NFL wanted no part of Trump. It's a theory. I mean, I'm sure Trump would take the same position regardless, right? I was going to say something else, but I'm not going to say that. Maida's ruling represented the first time the federal judiciary has weighed in on the ongoing oversight battle between Trump and House Democrats. His ruling is likely to provide a blueprint for other judges who are set to make their own rulings on Trump's vow to defy all congressional subpoenas. Maida heard arguments from Trump attorney William Consovoy and House General Counsel Douglas Letter last week, during which he cast serious doubt on Consovoy's legal arguments. I'm not familiar with these attorneys. It's almost as though Trump he goes through these attorneys and then has to hire new attorneys, and then they go away and he has to hire new attorneys. Consovoy contended that Congress has no legitimate authority to investigate whether the president violated the law because such probes are handled by law enforcement entities and aren't tied to a specific legislative remedy. But Maida pushed back strongly on Consovoy, stating those types of investigations are strictly within Congress's purview. He also said Congress has authority to investigate conflicts of interest. For example, whether a president has a, quote, financial interest in a particular piece of legislation that was being considered, unquote. In addition to the Mazars suit, Trump has asked a federal court, to invalidate the House Intelligence and Financial Services Committee's subpoenas to Deutsche Bank and Capital One. Those subpoenas also seek Trump's personal and business financial records as part of a joint investigation centering around whether Trump is compromised financially or otherwise by foreign actors, Russia. Trump and his GOP allies have argued that the Democrats' probes are illegitimate and amount to an abuse of power. I like to say that phrase loudly. Abuse of power. It's just kind of fun. Let's see. Wayne says in the Facebook live chat, every member of Congress is most likely guilty of some kind of fraud. Well, I would tend to agree with that, Wayne. That's why I don't trust any of these people. We'll give you an air horn for that. Let's see. There was other breaking news. Oh, we already covered that. The other big breaking news is the White House deciding to order basically Don McGahn, but I mean it's really the DOJ, right, that's ordering Don McGahn not to testify. Now there's this other thing. Let's tackle this Deutsche Bank thing, and I haven't really looked at this too closely, but this is from Mediaite. Trump goes off on New York Times report on Deutsche Bank money laundering concerns, saying, I didn't need the money. Only lost $1 billion over 10 years. Didn't need the money. President Trump pushed back hard on a damning weekend New York Times report that claimed that officials at Deutsche Bank had alerted executives about what they called suspicious activities consistent with money laundering associated with Trump and Jared Kushner banking accounts. Trump pushed back in a 5-part tweet storm. And again, by the way, I asked the question, just to sidetrack for a moment. I brought this up earlier in the show. The term tweet storm, is that new, relatively speaking? Did we have that term prior to President Donald John Trump becoming president? I don't think we did. Wayne says the end result will be leaks. Let's see. Trump pushed back in a 5-part tweet storm that opened with the familiar insult of the failing New York Times writing phony stories. He then claimed that the reason he didn't use many banks was not that they wouldn't do business with him, which has been widely reported, but that he didn't need the money. The New York Times opens with this. Now, this is what I'm about to read to you. This is from the New York Times report. Anti-money laundering specialists at Deutsche Bank recommended in 2016 and 2017 that multiple transactions involving legal entities controlled by Donald J. Trump and his son-in-law Jared Kushner be reported to a federal financial crimes watchdog. The transactions, some of which involved Mr. Trump's now-defunct foundation, set off alerts in a computer system designed to detect illicit activity, according to 5 current and former bank employees. Compliance staff members who then reviewed the transactions prepared so-called suspicious activity reports that they believed should be sent to a unit of the Treasury Department that polices financial crimes. But executives at Deutsche Bank, which lent billions of dollars to the Trump and Kushner companies, rejected their employees' advice. The reports were never filed with the government. So that's from the New York Times report. Writer David Enright reports Mediaite needs to hire a proofreader. So I will self-edit this as I read this. Writer David Enright reports later in the piece that Trump's 2-decade relationship with Deutsche Bank occurred, quote, during a period when most Wall Street banks had stopped doing business with him after his repeated defaults. Deutsche Bank lent Mr. Trump and his companies a total of more than $2.5 billion. Wow. If you need a big loan, that's where you go, I guess. Odd that the money laundering claim was not what set Trump off. Yeah, that is odd. But instead, the report that Wall Street banks had shut him out. Trump tweeted this. Sometimes I wish I could do a Trump impression, but I really can't. All right, so here's Trump's tweet storm about it. The failing New York Times, it will pass away when I leave office in 6 years, and others of the fake news media keep writing phony stories about how I didn't use many banks because they didn't want to do business with me. Wrong! It is because I didn't need money. Very old-fashioned, but true. When you don't need or want money, you don't need or want banks. Banks have always been available to me. They want to make money. Fake media only says this to disparage and always uses unnamed sources because their sources don't even exist. The mainstream media has never been as corrupt and deranged as it is today. Fake news is actually the biggest story of all and is the true enemy of the people. That's why they refuse to cover the real Russia hoax. But the American people are wise to what is going on. Now, the new big story is that Trump made a lot of money and buys everything for cash. He doesn't need banks. But where did he get all of that cash? Could it be Russia? No. I built a great business and don't need banks. But if I did, they would be there. And Deutsche Bank was very good and highly professional to deal with. And if for any reason I didn't like them, I would have gone elsewhere. There was always plenty of money around and banks to choose from. They would be very happy to take my money. Fake news. By the way, just as observation, it's lucky for Deutsche Bank that they did, that Trump did like them so much, because Trump has, in the past, sued banks that he owed money to as a way of getting out of paying them. Coming up with some reason why he didn't really owe the money or something. Let's see, roughly 10 minutes after posting this Twitter thread, Trump then followed with a clarification that 2 tweets were missing, but that there was no time for a redo. What? 2 of the tweets were missing. Oh, probably the part where he objected to the money laundering and addressed that. That's probably what was missing, right? I'm guessing. So there you have it. Let's see. You're listening to Matt Connarton Unleashed. We are live, and the phone line is open. 603-250-6007 is the number to call. 603-250-6007. Got about 27, 28 minutes left in today's program. So if you would like to call in and participate in some way, you are welcome to. I keep thinking we're going to get a call from Q after he was referenced earlier. Sometimes he pops up when you mention his name. Something just quick and fun from Mediaite. Mark Levin bashes Brian Stelter for bashing Levin's book that bashes media for bashing conservatives. I like this. I like all the circular bashing that goes on. It's one of the things that's fun about modern media. I used to like Mark Levin, by the way. That might surprise some of you, given that he and I don't exactly match up ideologically speaking. But I used to enjoy it when he'd be, and I think he plays it up for the radio. I don't think this is legit. I think it's part of his performance. But he does this thing where he gets very worked up about things and then he starts yelling. He sounds like he's about to have an aneurysm. And I used to find that amusing and entertaining when I first began to listen to him. It's kind of worn out with me, so I don't really enjoy that anymore. And I don't really enjoy him anymore. But I went through a period where I was a fan, sort of, only because I just liked it when he would, like I said, I don't think he was legitimately losing his temper. I think it was part of the performance, and it was entertaining. So, but I'm kind of over it. But anyway, but he's an interesting guy. CNN media critic Brian Stelter lamented the success of Fox News Channel everything critic. Did I mention Mediaite needs a editor, a proofreader? I'm trying to self-edit this in my head as I say it. I'll start it over. CNN media critic Brian Stelter lamented the success of critic Mark Levin's book, or everything. I don't know what they're trying to say there. The success of Mark Levin's book, Unfreedom of the Press, already number one on Amazon a day before it is released. In his newsletter on Sunday night, the conservative media criticism website Newsbusters pointed it out on Twitter. That prompted a retweet from Levin, and now here we are. Starting at the beginning, this is the excerpt from Stelter's newsletter. Mark Levin's Hate the Media book is number one. Right-wing commentator Mark Levin's book, Unfreedom of the Press, comes out Tuesday. Thanks to his numerous plugs on the radio and on Fox, he's at number one on Amazon's hardcover and paperback book chart right now, ahead of Howard Stern's new book. His overarching message, you can't trust the press. The paragraph does the most important thing of any story about a book. It links to the page where you can buy it. Nevertheless, that prompted a mocking tweet from Newsbusters, complete with GIF reaction, which I'm not going to try to describe here. That, in turn, produced a GIF-less, quote, retweet from Levin bashing Stelter, which said, sadly, CNN's Brian Stelter is unstable and obsessed and does a great disservice to the press, freedom, and the public. He has no professional journalistic standards and is incapable of changing course. He's contributing to the demise of the media's credibility. It's the media circle of life, from book to newsletter to tweet to retweet to me recapping everything like a douchebag. That's what it says in this Mediaite article I'm reading from. But of course, that wasn't the beginning, leaving aside the already abundantly documented war between CNNers and Fox folk. The specific battles between Levin and Stelter go way back. In fact, the specific battles between Levin and Stelter about books in particular goes way back. And then there's some clips here. I'll go ahead and just drop this into the Facebook live chat for those of you who want to check it out later. It's a little much to get into here, but hello to Gia who joins us in the Facebook live chat. But it truly is, like the author of that article says, a circle of life. It's very successful. It's a very successful formula. The left helps the right sell things. The right helps the left sell things in various ways. It's like you see with the media. Trump is great for the media. The very media that he criticizes so much gives him plenty of publicity. He gives them ratings, etc. It's all just a constant self-fulfilling prophecy, if you will. But we are joined. We have been joined here in the studio by a man.
Hi.
And who are you, sir?
It's just me.
It's just you. See, I have to make certain that I like to let you introduce yourself.
I know you do.
In case you've taken on one of your many alter egos.
There's just me. I don't know what you're talking about when you say that.
Well, yes, of course. Hello to the great Paul Cormier.
Good afternoon, Manchester.
Oh, not just Manchester. We have all these folks online from all over the place.
Hello, everybody from all over the place.
Your great friend Fred is from Pennsylvania, for example. I know.
Hi, Fred.
But Wayne is from Michigan.
Hi, Wayne from Michigan.
I forget what state Gia's from.
Hi, Gia.
Gia's from far away. Everybody, actually, almost everybody. Oh, Jeff Cassell is local.
Hi, Jeff.
I think almost everybody else in here. I forget where Rhonda's from. Rhonda's from somewhere else.
I know Jeff.
You do know Jeff. Dr. Jeff Cassell.
Dr. Jeff.
There's also the other Jeff Scumpy Lorenz. I went to see his show the other night, DEF CON. Oh, Gia says, hey, y'all, news schmooze. It's all commentary of bozos.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I can imagine Brian Stelter actually in a bozo costume, but I like him. That's in no way meant to be a put down or a criticism of him. Alex Jones apparently hates Brian Stelter. I played a clip last week of Alex Jones just losing his mind over Brian Stelter, saying Brian Stelter wants to run your life. Brian Stelter wants to control you. Alex Jones... sometimes he just comes unhinged, Paul Cormier. He comes unhinged.
I believe it.
Yes.
I could just imagine.
Yes. Well, you don't have to imagine it. You could. You should go to his website, Infowars.com. You might enjoy it.
Who, Alex?
Yeah, I'm kidding.
No.
I don't think you'd enjoy that. I don't think it would be your thing.
I saw a piece on, what's his name, last week, tonight's HBO show.
Oh, yeah, John Oliver.
Yes.
Yeah.
Talking about the great Alex Jones.
Yes.
That was fantastic.
I do.
Fantastic piece.
I enjoy some Alex Jones. I think he's fascinating. Oh, Gia's in California.
Oh.
Yes.
Sunny California.
All the way on the West Coast. It's pretty sunny here. It's sunny and hot.
Sunny and hot.
Yes.
It's like we skipped right over spring.
That seems to happen a lot.
Yeah.
That's why I opened with Weatherman Says by Jack Wagner. I know that's a personal favorite of yours.
Jack Wagner.
Sorry you missed it. The great Frisco Jones.
Well, we could always read it again tonight over dinner.
You want to read it?
Oh, whatever.
Why would you read it?
Because I like reciting things to you. You know that.
Well, I do, and it's a little weird, but it's 2019, you know. I'm a modern man.
Yes. Right. You are.
So how are you today, Paul Cormier?
I'm doing all right, hanging in there.
Yes.
How are things with you, Matt?
Oh, okay. All right. It's another busy news day.
It is another busy news. That's why I came in. I needed to get some news.
Oh, really?
I just got out of work after working one of my 3 jobs.
Yes.
And I came in. I got out of work, and I thought to myself, God damn, I need news.
You need news.
I need news. So I came in. And I poked my head around, and I saw that you were sitting in here alone today.
But here's the...
so I figured I'd come in and join you.
But here's the irony, Paul.
Mm-hmm.
You came in to get news.
Yes.
But you're the one sitting at the news desk.
Right. Well, you know what? I would contribute, but the computer here never works. So
you're at the news desk.
Right.
That's the official news desk air horn.
I hate that thing.
Why? It's an air horn. What's to hate?
Because it's horrible. It's overused in society.
No, it's not overused on this show. I hardly ever use it.
Not the air horn per se in general.
Right.
That.
Right. Yes. Oh, Fred posted in the Facebook Live chat a picture of him with Mark Levin. Fred, you look uncomfortable in that picture. Almost as though... Oh, and Fred says he's banned from Levin's Facebook page. Well, I can't imagine what you could have done to upset him. Do you have any what talk shows do you listen to, Paul, other than Howard? Or I don't know if you even really listen to Howard anymore.
I barely ever listen to Howard, only because I don't have a chance to. You know,
right?
He's changed quite drastically. I mean, I've been listening to him when he started on BCN back in 1992, and I stumbled across him by mistake. I was just going to listen to the evening music that BCN once provided, and I heard this guy Howard Stern on one night, and I didn't know what it was, and it turns out his morning show was syndicated here in Boston at night.
Yes.
Because they didn't want to get rid of Charles Laquadera in the morning because he was a WBCN staple.
My dad was a big fan of his. I never heard him, Charles Laquadera.
So you never heard his radio show when he was on?
I don't think I ever did. I remember my dad talking about it, but for whatever reason, I don't think I ever heard it.
Yeah, he was big in the 70s and 80s, and I remember catching the last few years of his show when I was a teen.
Okay.
And then eventually he retired, and Howard took over. The syndicated show took over in the mornings there on WBCN.
Yeah, because I remember I used to listen to. That was where when I first heard Howard was at night. Well, actually, my first exposure to Howard was his television show that he did on WOR in New York, but was syndicated. Yeah,
the television show that got more ratings than Saturday Night Live.
Yeah.
Yes.
Our mutual friend, Dan Randlett, was the one who turned me on to the television program.
You can still find episodes of that WOR show on YouTube.
Yes, you can. Like when he interviewed, or was that on the E! Show? Because then he had that. Because there's an interview he does with Kiss from 1993.
Well, I'm a huge MASH fan, the television show MASH.
Yes.
And I just came across a WOR Howard Stern show episode where he interviewed Larry Linville, the guy who played
Frank Burns.
Frank Burns on the first 3 seasons of MASH, 4 seasons or 5 seasons, actually. And
you really are a MASH-ophile.
yes, and it was hilarious because, you see, on Howard's show, when he would have a guest on, he wouldn't tell them what they were in for.
Right.
He would just let them know in advance, we're going to do a skit that's probably going to feature the show you were on, but that's it. He'd throw the script at them via teleprompter right when they were there. He did that with Larry Linville.
Oh, he did?
Yes, they did a MASH. They did a MASH skit, and Larry Linville played Frank Burns.
Yeah.
And Howard didn't play Hawkeye. He played Hawknose.
Really? Yeah.
And they performed a really bad surgery there.
Oh,
And
wow.
It was a bad skit.
Yeah.
It probably would have been hilarious back in 1992 when the show was live, but when you look at it today, it was just dreadful. But
is that on YouTube?
yeah, it's on YouTube.
Oh, okay. I gotta find that.
It's great.
Yeah. I used to love MASH when I was a kid.
Yeah, but the first that video itself is broken up into 2 or 3 segments. But what I liked was the first segment when he was actually sitting down interviewing Larry Linville.
Yeah.
The skit itself was tasteless, but
really,
oh yeah, this is tasteless.
Yeah,
stupid.
I could probably, if I could find it, I could probably play it. Right there wouldn't be any profanity in that because that aired on regular TV.
Right, it was on regular television. The first segment, yeah, just put in. In fact, I just typed in Larry Linville on YouTube.
Oh, no kidding.
And that's, excuse me, that's like the first thing that came up.
Oh,
Howard Stern interviews Larry Linville on WOR like 30 plus years ago or 25 plus years ago.
Howard Stern channel. Yep, there it is.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So, but the skit they do, whoops, let me pull that down. So the skit they do
is in the second segment.
Okay. Because I found part 1.
Right. The first segment they do is just them interviewing, and then they cut to a commercial break, and that's where the first segment of the video ends, and then they come back to break, and in a new video on YouTube starts.
Oh, okay. Let me see.
It's totally visual.
Oh, the skit?
Yeah, it's you know
maybe it's not worth playing.
Nah, it's just stupid.
Oh, okay. I'm just curious. Yeah, I'll look for it later then. I'm curious.
Yeah, watch it at home.
Actually, I'm just really curious now. Huh.
Well, you see, they got to perform an emergency breast augmentation on a stripper.
Really?
So, and Larry Linville's totally standing.
buddy.
He's standing there in complete awe and shock. Not real. I mean, you know,
right.
And he's going with it. It's a good sport.
Yeah.
By this time, he's like old and fat. He's not the Frank Burns that you saw on MASH.
Right.
It's just great.
Yeah.
And it was shortly before he passed away too, which, you know, was kind of sad. I liked him. He was one of my favorite characters on that show. But
yeah, he was great. And Charles was great, who replaced him. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Charles Emerson Winchester III.
Right.
Oh, Vermin Supreme has announced his, just saw Jenny share this out, his 2020 bid for the Libertarian Party presidential nomination.
Excellent.
Vermin Supreme. You've met him, I'm sure.
The guy with the boot.
With the boot,
head, right?
yes.
Sure.
I voted for him in 2016 in the Democratic primary because he was running as a Democrat.
Excellent.
But apparently now he's running as a Libertarian.
I see.
So I will vote for him. He's one of the few presidential candidates who's let me interview him.
Really?
Yes.
In here, in the studio, or on location?
Upstairs when I was doing the TV show, he came in. Plus, I've done a couple of phone interviews with him over the years.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, that's really, I actually am that like self-serving that I'll vote for someone simply because they were willing to be a guest on my show.
Well, why not?
Yeah, I mean that really is like even if there's someone I'd prefer to vote for, I'll still vote for him because he said yes.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't find interviewing politicians all that interesting, which might sound. I've never said this on the air. That might sound like an odd comment from me.
Well, it's a complete bore fest in the first place.
Well, the thing is, professional politicians they speak in talking points.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I had one of the major candidates in here,
mm-hmm.
and honestly, if they've listened to the show ahead of time, they're not going to come on. But I mean, earlier I was talking about a satanic ritual, occult sacrifice, and yeah. But they're not going to come on. But Joe Biden's not going to come in here and sit with me. But the thing is, like, professional politicians, they only speak in talking points, and they only, one of the first rules in politics is when an interviewer asks you a question or at a press conference or whatever, or at a debate, you never answer the question that was asked. You only answer the question that you wish had been asked.
I see.
So...
Well, that makes sense.
You see that happen all the time, right? So it's really not that interesting. It's not that interesting a discussion to have because they're not going to say anything interesting.
I'm proud to say, Matt, that I couldn't give the slightest you-know-what about politics.
I know.
I just don't care.
Well, you care a little bit, I think.
I really don't.
I think you care a ton. It's like Jenny always says, you might not get into politics, but politics will get into you.
Mm-hmm.
Right. It affects you.
Right.
Well, we had kind of a sort of a political discussion Friday.
Yes, we did.
That was great. I like it when arguments break out.
Yeah, but to me, that wasn't political. It was common sense.
Yeah, but this is an element of politics, too.
Whatever.
Dealing with issues
I
like that.
hear you.
And there's
I didn't make it political.
Well, there's certainly people here who make the issue political, though, locally.
Mm-hmm. Well, sure.
So, very
well,
very
there's
much
a certain level of politics that have to intervene with the subject we were talking about.
Well, that's what I mean. Yeah.
Well, of course.
Yes. But no, that was exciting radio.
Mm-hmm.
You guys both took your headphones off.
Well, my ears started getting sore.
Oh, my goodness.
I was being accused of something I wasn't doing.
Well, you know what? I mean, it's like you guys were you were more on the same page than I think either of you realized.
Well, of course. I don't want to see somebody get hurt.
Right.
I don't want to see somebody out on the street for a living.
Right. Picture's only begun.
Exactly.
Got you under their gun. But yes, I do occasionally like to see people get hurt, like in a fun YouTube video.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you see someone fall down or, getting hit by a car or something, that's kind of exciting.
Right.
Those kinds of things.
Sure.
Because you can kind of pretend it's not real, even though knowing that it is real makes it even funnier.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of neat. But I know what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah.
Does that make me bad that I like that stuff?
That you think it's funny might be a little disturbing.
Yeah. Like usually, like if I see someone fall down or something, I'll go help them up or whatever. But first I'll kind of stand over them for a few seconds.
Well, I don't think that makes you totally sick.
Because point at them and laugh.
Look at these America's Funniest Home videos.
Exactly.
They're made up of 2 hours of family fun, of people falling off skateboards and kissing the pavement and, and getting hit by cars and falling off platforms, and they're trying to paint the house and they fall off the ladder.
Right.
And the laughter in the audience when the applause button and the laughter light comes on in the studio. And I sit there and I'm like, do you find that stuff funny when people are getting injured? I don't. I don't like that. I don't think it's funny. It doesn't bother me. If these people want to get on, on a mini bike and go jump off a ramp and have their Uncle Biff videotape them dying, that's one thing. But
some of that's just Darwin,
I guess. But
yeah,
my nephew just broke both of his legs on an ATV, and now I'm going to send it to Bob Saget on America's Funniest Home Videos. I just don't get that logic.
Right.
I never have.
Right.
I think it's the stupidest ever.
Oh, my goodness.
It's dumb.
Jeff Scumpy Lorenz says, hey, Paulie C.
I love you, Jeff Scumples.
I was at his show the other night.
How was it?
Oh, it was good. I mean, I didn't stay for too long. It was very, very loud, and, I've got the tinnitus, so I try to protect my hearing. I stayed for about 4 songs, but
okay.
No, it sounded good.
Did you come to town specifically for that, and then you left and went back home?
Yeah, well, I was in Manchester. I mean, I live in Manchester.
Well, you got to call me, man. On Saturday night, I sat there with my thumb, and I didn't do anything. I was going to call Peter to see if he was going to see DEF CON.
Oh. Well, it's kind of a spontaneous thing.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, I couldn't stay long because of I have the constant ringing, so I take really good care of my ears, or I try to. I risked my hearing for you, Scumpy.
Wow. How was it?
I hope he knows. No, it was good.
Was it good?
Yeah. I mean, it was loud in there. But Panucci's is a nice room.
Did he play Kiss while you were there?
No, he did. Let's see. I stayed for 4 songs. So there was Everybody Wants Some by Van Halen.
Really?
Black Days, or Fell on Black Days, or whatever it's called, by Soundgarden.
Fell on Black Days?
Yeah. Yes. Jailbreak by Thin Lizzy, and The Zoo by the Scorpions.
Ah.
So, and he played guitar on Jailbreak. I think he just sang for the other ones.
Ah.
Yeah.
Well, he's versatile.
But he does a lot of, even when he's not playing guitar, like when he's just singing, he does a lot of this.
Does he ever get on the Skins?
No.
No Skins?
No, I didn't see him get on the Skins.
Yeah, that's too bad.
Hello to Wade Hall in the Facebook live chat, as well as our very own John Midas Manning. I say our very own because DJ Midas DJ Midas hosts a show here on WMNH, Late Night Delight,
DJ Midas Manning,
every Saturday and Sunday night from 12 midnight to 4 a.m.
He is the man.
Yes. You didn't always think so.
I do now.
I know. I know.
He and I get along just
I know.
fine.
Absolutely.
In fact, he and I were going to do a project together. Jesus, a year ago? We never did it. Never did it.
What was the project?
I don't know. We wanted to do something. He approached me and he asked me, God, it's been so long I forgot. It was something along the lines of, and John, if you're there, try to refresh my memory. It was making a video about the city. I don't remember. Something that had to do with the city, but it was put to music and kind of like what I do already. I don't remember, though. I don't remember.
Oh, well, maybe he remembers, and that will reignite your plans.
Hopefully.
Yes.
I'll do some work with John Midas Manning.
Yes. Well, we are just about out of time, Paul. Do you have anything? Do you have any new videos up online that you'd like to plug?
Manchester Part 13, Dreams. Ooh. A video that's going absolutely nowhere.
What do you mean?
I'm just having a hard time making it.
Oh, okay.
Just having a difficult time making it, but I had the same difficulty making Part 12, and I had a very difficult time making Part 11 as well. But they got made. They came to fruition.
Oh, yes.
And but this time around, I'm trying to make this video somewhat different than the other 12 that I've had.
Yeah.
And my dream, my vision in my head, I'm having a hard time making it come. I'm bringing it to fruition, if I may use that phrase again.
Yes.
Only because I'm having a hard time piecing together my thoughts as to how I want it to actually go.
Oh, Midas says, I've got some new ideas I should definitely run by you in the near future.
Sounds like a plan.
Oh, there you go. Well, it's not really a plan. It's more of a thought. Like a plan would be like...
Him running them by me is the plan.
Yeah, but that's not really a plan. Like a plan, doesn't a plan involve like a specific day and time and that's more of a plan.
Okay. Sounds like an idea.
Yeah, it's more of an idea. I'm a stickler for these, for semantics and using the right words, Paul Cormier. I like to always say things correctly.
You're absolutely right.
Yes.
I deal with plans all day.
Yes.
My full-time job. Maybe
See?
I just left work with work on my mind.
Yes. All right, Paul. Well, always nice to see you.
Good to see you. Have a good day.
Absolutely. And thanks, everybody, in the Facebook Live chat. And thank you to Easy G for calling in earlier. And if you missed any part of today's show, it'll be up in just a little bit at WMNHradio.org. Don't forget the morning show, well, in the morning from 7 to 9 a.m. with the great Peter White, and I will be back tomorrow afternoon. That's it for me for now. I'll talk at y'all a little bit later. Bye, everybody.
You know what that is, right? Who is that? Who is that? Trump's so racist. Who is that? Donald Trump, they said. Who is that? Donald Trump, not bad. Who is that? Donald Trump, they said. Who is that? Trump's so racist. Nice guy. I mean nice guy. Nice guy. I mean nice guy. Nice guy. I mean nice guy. You're a racist. I couldn't care less. Nice guy. I mean nice guy. Nice guy. I mean nice guy. Nice guy. I mean nice guy. You're a racist. I couldn't care less. Not bad. Not bad. Not bad. I couldn't care less. A lot of fun tonight. We're going to have a lot of fun tonight. I couldn't care less. Nice guy. I mean nice guy. Nice guy. I mean nice guy. Nice guy. I mean nice guy. You're a racist. I couldn't care less.
IPMNation.com.